Melissa, you're good to go. We can see your slides.
Perfect, thank you. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. Good, thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Melissa Robon, and I am the ERM librarian at the McDermott Library at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado. Before I begin, please note the caption on the bottom of this slide. The views expressed in this presentation are mine and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the United States Air Force Academy, the Air Force, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. So I will start with a brief introduction to the school and the library in which I work. The Air Force Academy is a young institution that was established in the 1950s. It is a school with about 4,000 students, approximately 300 faculty and related staff, and a strong focus on STEM fields. While students are earning their bachelor's degrees, they are also training for military service upon graduation. The McDermott Library supports the academic mission of the institution with a 500,000 volume on-site collection, over 2.6 million e-resources provided by about 75 vendors, and 34 FTE staff. As the ERM librarian, I am a steward of electronic resources, both owned and subscribed, and this focus on collection services influences the issues and opportunities that I entertain when considering AI applications. So the initial question I started with is how can we use emerging AI capabilities to improve the library collections and services in a strategic or tactical way? And as I was reviewing the literature and listening to presentations, I found many exciting accounts of experiments in workflow efficiency and opportunities for information literacy instruction, chatbot innovations, and search and retrieval improvements, all with emergency AI capabilities. And these are all interesting proposals for how to complete workflows and routine tasks more efficiently, but I want to step back and get more insight into what we need to be providing and where the collections and services may have gaps in necessary resources. From a collections perspective, having a speedier ingest workflow or a discovery layer with amazing retrieval is not quite as wonderful if the collections are weak and high demand topics, or if you have discontinued subscription access to materials on crucial subjects. From this start, I narrowed the problem down with the question, which of the items available online through the library are used in scholarly output or course instruction? This question is more focused and has actionable methods that can be tackled using current AI technologies. Scholarly output and course instruction are narrow perspectives compared to the broader scope of library operations, but identifying these resources now will help us defend their expense in the face of growing costs and fluctuating budgets. I chose instruction and scholarly output analysis because the McDermott Library already has tools and metrics in place for measuring the use of library services and resources at the beginning of the research lifecycle. Examples include circulation statistics for hard copy items, counter reports for e-resources, manual reporting and tracking of circulation, reference for research lessons and consultations, as well as research in special collections and archives. But these only capture use during the part of the research or teaching, during the beginning of the teaching and learning processes. So how do we capture or document the usage of services and resources in the output or end results of scholarly work? By looking at scholarly output, we can lift the resources upon which recent scholarship was built out from the larger pool of resources reviewed or considered. To answer these questions, I developed a four-part approach using AI tools. First is a review of course materials. This includes syllabi and reading lists, which are often posted on class instruction sites. I was fortunate enough to get permission from every department but one when I asked for access to the copies on deposit in the school archive. I then collected course materials going back to the 2018 to 2019 academic year. The next part of the initiative is analyzing published and presented work. I turned to this after encountering some delays in analyzing the course materials. Since the scholarly communication that I am collecting for this portion of the project has already been cleared for public release, I have more options for a processing environment. I have also been able to use an AI-assisted tool from one of our vendors to get the citation lists from materials published by scholars with Academy affiliations. Other library staff members have used citation indices to help gather the scholarly output for the instruction and assist faculty for the review and their publication lists, but I am not aware of any other attempt at the McDermott Library to analyze the citations in that output. So the third line of effort, and this is highly aspirational, would be to perform the same citation analysis with the bibliographies or footnotes in student capstone papers. This will be the last part of the project to tackle because it will be the most challenging to get the proper permissions and to gather the materials. And the last part of this project is a study of the course descriptions. The course of instruction and its predecessor publications, which include the school's course catalog, are published annually and are openly available online. Analyzing current and prior issues will allow us to see how the curriculum has changed over time and to make sure that the library's collections are keeping up with these changes. Examples of library support for these changes over time are primary sources for strategic studies and history courses. As materials from past conflicts and the Cold War are being declassified, primary source documents, images, and recordings are becoming available on government websites and through vendor digitization initiatives. So, why use AI for these tasks instead of reviewing it all myself? The answers include, of course, time saving, as well as the possibility of AI finding patterns that I might not identify going through all of these materials on my own. The benefits of using AI for these projects include the recognition and extraction of useful data in specific text formats, such as citations, the ability to train models to recognize additional text passages, such as acknowledgments, and extract those. Adjacent information in the relevant documents can be provided if desired. I'm interested in this capability for the syllabi analysis. If the liaison librarian or library services are mentioned in the syllabus, where is the information? Is it listed with the resources, or is it tacked on at the end of the syllabus after the standard ethics and plagiarism statements? Context in these cases may provide additional insights. And the last benefit I will mention here is the ability to ask for summaries and key points for larger bodies of text. And these are the features I want to leverage when working with the course descriptions. So as we all know, using AI isn't all benefits. I have divided the encountered and expected drawbacks into two categories: AI technology factors and institution factors. So the AI technology factors include resource-intensive technology. For example, these programs usually cannot be run on your laptop. A cloud service or specialized environment needs to be implemented. Lack of clarity around data use and reuse for cloud-based services. As mentioned by previous presenters, a lot of these utilities are kind of a black box. And this is supposed to be getting better, but it's still worrisome when some of the data under analysis is sensitive. Lack of clarity, the need to train and test models for different projects. I will still have to do a cursory analysis of materials on my own and work through several iterations of the analysis. And of course, there are the hallucinations, which are contrived or incorrect results. Mindfulness of their ever-present danger and a critical eye on analysis findings will hopefully mitigate damaging and misinforming results from these projects. The second category of drawback are the institution factors, and these include the policy and guidance for AI. These are still developing, and new capabilities and use cases will necessitate future updates to institutional policies. The second institutional factor are IRB, FERPA, and other privacy factors for content creators. The data that I'm working with is often extracted from the work of living people working in an academic context, and safeguards need to be implemented to protect student anonymity for unpublished data. And then not all data is appropriate for general consumption. If some of the materials included around a public-private partnership with proprietary information, confidential information, and the intellectual property of others, extra consideration is needed before using it, and a silo processing environment may be needed. And lastly, the challenge of incomplete data sources. In some cases, the data is limited by the material that different departments deposited or saved. If syllabi, for example, are provided but not reading lists, then I will lose a potential source of relevant information. The same issue also applies to the case for citation analysis. This is limited to the materials I can identify and to researchers who are actively engaged in scholarly communication. Results from analysis may be skewed because of that data and the absence of some of the other. So how am I trying to navigate between the opportunities and drawbacks of these projects? I started with a clear communication of purpose and use with the stakeholders. A summary of the project was provided when asking for content and included specific details such as which academic years will be studied. In return, I was given clear boundaries on how I am allowed to use this data by the people providing it. Documented permission to use the data was also very important. When using materials from the departments, I have the permission and limitations in writing, and they are kept on file. Strategic partnerships within the institution are also crucial. These projects have been a great opportunity to work with people outside of the McDermott Library. I've been working with the Office of Research as well as a faculty member from the Computer Science Department. And using air-gapped system for analysis when necessary. The computer science faculty member is setting up an air-gapped environment for the syllabi and capstone paper analysis. And building on the work already done by others. This includes, repurposing workflows and choice of models. There are also a number of other librarians and archives engaged in projects like this. As well as workers who provide training and support. And as I mentioned before, time for multiple iterations of analysis to check for hallucinations or needed improvements in prompts, model training, or queries. And lastly, awareness of process vulnerabilities in general and not taking initial results at face value without critical review. So sorry, this is a very wordy slide. I had already planned to analyze the syllabi at some point during this calendar year, but over the summer, I realized that I could use that project and these other related initiatives to test some AI use cases for the library during the fall and winter. This is what I'm in the process of doing now. The two projects on the left are already underway because they do not require an isolated system for analysis. So far, the analysis published of presented work has yielded some interesting results. The e-resources packages and vendors with the highest counter usage stats are not the same as packages and vendors most heavily cited in scholarly communication output. This is helpful because it gives us documented impact for retaining these resources that we may not have had before. The library has many primary sources.
Sorry to interrupt. We are 3 minutes over.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, well, I will just skip the rest of that slide then.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So here are the additional resources that I have and the acknowledgements because I am not doing this on my own. I am learning as I go. And here is my contact information if you have any other questions for me.